With the NFL and more importantly, the Chicago Bears season right around the corner, we got some bold predictions for the Chicago Bears season. We're going to look at all that plus some more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. So we want to start off with 10 bold predictions. Now, this is an article from Bears Wire in which they go over bold predictions for the Chicago Bears. We're going to take a look at these predictions and say how bold are they in reality or not. We're going to look at that. So let's start off with this first bold prediction is that Caleb Williams breaks nearly every Bears rookie passing record. Now, that isn't really too hard to do when you look at the history of the Chicago Bears rookies. It is what it is there. What Caleb Williams would have to do is pass for more than 2,193 yards, throw 10 touchdowns, and complete 59.5% of his touchdown passes and finish the season with a QB rating of 80 or better. That's how you got to finish. And then you break just about every single rookie record for the Chicago Bears quarterbacks. Now, we're hoping also that he breaks some more long-term records as far as 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, which is something that no Chicago Bears player or quarterback has ever achieved. But saying that Caleb Williams is a player that should, or it's a bold prediction that he's going to break every rookie passing record by the Chicago Bears, I don't think that it's going to happen. As long as Caleb Williams is healthy, and it's not just because of looking at just the talent of Caleb Williams, which of course plays a large part in this, but it's also when it comes down to the weapons that we have on this team. When you look at it, we're stacked on that offensive side of the ball. Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze at receivers, Gerald Everett, Cole Kmet at tight end, right? DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert, and Roschon Johnson as your running backs. The bigger question is that offensive line? Is the offensive line going to be able to perform well enough for Caleb to have his time? And I think when you look at how quick Caleb's getting the ball out there, how quick we're trying to operate as an offense overall, that the yards and touchdowns, that's probably going to be a safe bet to beat. Now, the question is that 59.5% of his passes, will he be able to beat that aspect of things? Yeah, I think Caleb is, he's a gunslinger. Yeah, he takes some chances down the field, but I think ultimately Caleb Williams is a very smart quarterback, and he's also a quarterback that understands how the ebbs and flows of the game, right? And so I think that's a safe bet. Caleb Williams breaking every Bears rookie passing record, I'm not too worried about that one. I think he's going to break that one pretty easily. I think we're going to see that be done. Now, that does not mean that that's going to make for a 4,000-yard season. That doesn't mean that that's going to make for the Bears winning, which is still the most important thing is the Bears winning. But as far as a bold prediction, picking Caleb Williams with the quarterback that he is and the type of quarterback he is to break that record, I'm really not too worried about it. But maybe that's just me being overconfident. You guys can let me know what you guys think down below on that one. Next up, as far as the bold predictions on this list, number 2 came in at DeAndre Swift, totals 1,500 yards from scrimmage. And when you look at it, I do think he had 12,000 yards from scrimmage last year. He's going to try to build off that. He's in an offense that we're hope is going to be more dynamic. It's going to use him. And, I'm not willing to say what the balance of pass and run is as far as him catching passes or running the ball. But I think 1,500 yards rushing overall is something that he can definitely do. He's clearly the running back one. He's going to get the lion's share of the snaps there. The Bears are still going to mix up the snaps, and maybe that who they play on what snaps changes depending on who's successful or not at the beginning of the season. But I think 1,500 yards for DeAndre Swift from scrimmage overall, that's not a bad margin there. Now, is it a bold prediction? I'll say yes and no as far as it being a bold prediction. I do think it's more on the bolder side of things, especially when you look at how things have shaped up for the Bears the last couple of years and how much depth we're going to have at their running back room. I mean, apparently the Bears are also going to be looking to work in Velus Jones there, who, if you guys watch Hard Knocks, is no surprise that, it's a little bit of surprise to me, but they are really confident in Velus Jones, and they're going to try to get him out there. But I think with the amount of carries, when you look at last year, DeAndre Swift had 229 total carries for 1,049 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's going to get nearly that here. And then the passing last year, 214 yards receiving there on 39 receptions and 1 touchdown. So having DeAndre Swift go a little bit above that, right? almost that's 200, 250 yards above that. I think that he's going to be able to get that pretty easily here with Chicago. Like I said, the only thing that could really throw that off is if Khalil Herbert is just that damn good, and the Bears are going to have to work him in to make sure they get him a line share of snaps as well. But DeAndre Swift's going to play the most snaps there, I think, at that running back position, and so that takes you there. Next up, Rome Odunze leads the team in receiving touchdowns. Now, I do think this is this is probably the most bold prediction on here yet, and that's not because I doubt the skill of Rome Odunze. I just think when you look at it, if the Bears get in a lot of red zone situations, they're going to go to Cole Kmet and Keenan Allen a lot in the red zone. I think those guys are going to be really big red zone merchants when it comes down to it. And that's my personal opinion. I'm not saying that that's necessarily how everybody's going to feel on it. But when you look at it, you got DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett. DeAndre Swift's going to be used heavily in the passing game, right? Even Tyler Scott, there's some he's going to get some opportunity. So picking Rome Odunze to lead the team in receiving touchdowns, that's big. But I do think when you look at DJ Moore, when you look at Keenan Allen, I personally have those guys as kind of the more kind of straightforward players to get a bunch of touchdowns in this. But hey, I mean, Rome Odunze has that chemistry with Caleb Williams. He's a very quick and has that nice combination of quickness and size. So he's still in that slot, especially could get a lot of opportunities in the red zone as well, which could lead to a high number of touchdowns. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. Next one, the Bears offensive line surrenders fewer than 35 sacks. Now, something that I've talked about a lot in this offseason with my doubt around the offensive line is the fact that in the last 2 years, the Chicago Bears offensive line has given up over 105 sacks in the last 2 seasons. So you're saying that they give up less than 35 sacks, given up. Man, that would be huge. And that would be a really big improvement. Like what have we talked about is getting this offensive line to competency. I think that's a big thing this season for Chicago Bears is just getting them to a place where we're looking at them and saying, hey, we are here. And so then you can build off of it. If this Chicago Bears team gives up less than 35 sacks on the season after giving up a combined over 105 in the last 2 seasons combined, that would be a big, big deal to me if the Bears are able to do that. Now, again, I don't know how to feel about it. The offensive line is one of the things I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't know exactly how to feel. I've seen some things that have shown some promise to me in certain games for the Chicago Bears team for sure over the course of the preseason. I'll say that they were better than I was expecting, but I still look at it and say, hey, man, I just don't know. I don't know what to expect from the Chicago Bears offensive line. Can they stay healthy is probably the biggest question that needs to be answered there. If they can stay healthy and you allow for less than 35 sacks, hey, I'll say this is a very bold prediction for the Chicago Bears as well. But having Coleman Shelton, you've upgraded your center position. If you can have Nate Davis, who's been healthy for over a month straight now, him remain healthy as well, and Tevin Jenkins remain relatively healthy over this season, Darnell Wright takes a leap, maybe you can. We'll see there. Next with the bold, and we're getting bolder and bolder as we go. The next bold addiction that Bears Wire had here is Austin Booker reaches double-digit sacks. Here's what I'll say. For Austin Booker to not be the starter there, right? They've listed DeMarcus Walker on the unofficial depth chart as the starting edge on the other side of Montez Sweat. If you can get Austin Booker to have a double-digit sack season on a rookie campaign where he was coming into the season and most people expected him to be extremely raw, man, that says a lot about the upside of Austin Booker. Double-digit sacks with what Montez Sweat is probably going to do as well? Man, listen here, bro. All I'll say is this. If that happens, man, yeah, you're not going to be able to hold the excitement from a lot of Bears fans in regards to Austin Booker if he has double-digit sacks in his rookie year. Man, that'll be big. Next up, Javon Dexter leads the team in tackles for a loss. We'll see. Javon Dexter last year had 2.5 sacks, 12 QB hits last season as well. Can he, at this point, being slimmed down, having the position that he's going to have, it being that 3 tech that Matt Eberflus needs, that is so important to his defensive system, will Javon Dexter lead the team in tackles for a loss? That's a possibility, right? And I think that's actually a good stat to look at for Javon Dexter, more so than sacks, right? Because not every defensive tackle that's great gets a bunch of sacks. especially if they're really good in the run game. And I think if Javon Dexter is getting tackles for a loss in both the run game and in sacks, whatever it is, that's a really big season for Javon Dexter, especially coming in, being the full-time starter for the first time. Next one up as far as number 7 is TJ Edwards totals at least 100 solo tackles. Now, that's big. Now, getting to 100 tackles for TJ Edwards, that's not hard to do at all. I think when you combine the assisted tackles, that's not hard for TJ Edwards to do at all. If you're talking about 100 solo tackles just for TJ Edwards, he had 91 solo tackles last year, and then his last year with the Philadelphia Eagles, he had 99. So he's never had a season where he's gotten over 100 solo tackles before. That's just never happened for TJ Edwards before. If he's able to do that, hey, man, that'd be big. That'd be big. 100 solo tackles. Just looking at it, there are only 3 players in the NFL last year that had over 100 solo tackles last year. That was Fosaid Olukun with Jacksonville Jaguars, Zaire Franklin, and Alex Singleton. Those were the only 3 players to have over 100 solo tackles last year. So if TJ Edwards has over 100, that puts him in elite category going into coming out of that NFL season. And, with the contract that he signed, he could be up due for an extension sometime soon. That would be a big season for TJ Edwards. I do think that is a bold, considering only 3 players did that last season. That would be huge for TJ Edwards. And we'll see. And according to this, only 3 Bears players have had 100 solo tackles since 2000. That's Lance Briggs, Brian Urlacher, and Michael Green. Lance Briggs did it twice. And so, hey, that'll put him in elite category. Next one, Tyreek Stevenson finishes top 5 in interceptions. If you guys listen to kind of the last live stream that me, Bobby, and C-Dub did, I actually said something similar. Like Tyreek Stevenson was close last year to being in the top 10 of interceptions last season. And that was as a rookie. If he's able to do that again this year and be in that top 5, that's a huge. And, Tyreek Stevenson was one that the guys picked a lot to have a breakout year in a lot of ways. So if he's able to do that, shout out to him for being able to do that, man. Hey, I don't doubt anybody when it comes to it. Tyreek Stevenson has shown a lot in just his rookie year so far. How he's going to continue to grow and develop from that is going to be a big thing. When you look at the players last year, as far as the top 5 in interceptions last year, you had Deron Bland, Geno Stone, Jesse Bates, Razor Douglas, and Shavarius Ward. Those were your top 5 there. And when you, like I said, you look at Tyreek Stevenson. Tyreek Stevenson was right there as far as being tied. He had 4 interceptions. There were like 12 players tied for 4 interceptions last year. So he can get into that top 5. He'll need about 6 to 7 interceptions to do it. But if he gets it, shout out to Tyreek Stevenson in that second year, already showing that ball hawk ability that we've seen some with Tyreek Stevenson. The number 9 bold prediction is Ryan Poles makes another midseason trade. I think that's a foregone conclusion. I think that Ryan Poles is definitely, when you look at the assets, when you look at the money, he's primed to make another midseason acquisition if he needs to. Chase Claypool, Montez Sweat in 2022 and 23, those are 2 kind of midseason or in-season trades that he's made so far. I think when you look at it, he's going to be a guy that's really going to survey, and whatever the Bears need, he's going to try to go out there and get. That's what he's done. There's no reason to think that this season's going to be any different. If he notices a need and feels like he can go out and address it, he's going to try to do it with an in-season trade. So I'm not too surprised at all there. And then the number 10 bold prediction here by Bears Wire is that the Bears return to the postseason. And here's what I'll say. You better goddamn well do it. No, all jokes aside, I really do hope that this is a season where the Chicago Bears do. I think the Bears can finish with about 11 wins this season. I did a game-by-game prediction over on Bleacher Report. Y'all go check that out if you want that content. And I did predict the Bears to go 11-6 over the course of the season. And I think that that's a realistic mark for this Bears team when you look at their opponents, when you look at where they have the bye week. Of course, that's going to be a little bit more solidified as we go through the season, but 10 to 11 wins is where I have the Bears next season. And that should be enough to get the Bears into the postseason. And so I hope that last prediction is the one that becomes the most accurate, because we all want to see the Bears get into the postseason. But let me know what you guys think of those bold predictions from Bears Wire down below. Again, to recap the bold predictions, number 1 they came in at as Caleb Williams breaks every Bears rookie record as far as passing. I think that's going to happen for quarterbacks. DeAndre Swift gets over 1,500 yards from the line of scrimmage. next season. Romo Dunze leads the team in receiving touchdowns. Then you have the Bears' offensive line gives up less than 35 sacks last season. Austin Booker gets double-digit sacks. TJ Edwards gets over 100 solo tackles. Tyreek Stevenson finishes in the top 5 of interceptions. Ryan Poles makes another midseason trade. And then lastly, the Chicago Bears make the postseason. Let's see. Now, another interesting article that came from Rob Schwartz. I like reading Rob Schwartz's article because he's definitely a Bears fan, not just somebody that just writes for the Bears because they get paid to. He came up with 3 players that will be off the 53-man roster by week 5. And there's going to be one name on here that I know not a lot of Bears fans are going to want to hear. So first up, he has Doug Kramer, Senator Doug Kramer, a 6th-round pick by Ryan Poles in 2022. And this is a player that has not really done a lot for the Bears yet. He's been primarily on the practice squad. He's had some injury concerns and things like that. The Bears, Ryan Bates is still out, but he may end up playing a lot at center right now. And we'll see what happens with that one. Bates is a guy that he's going to start off the season on probably on IR. We'll see what happens there. But listen, Doug Kramer is a guy that's been around here for a long time. We've heard his name a lot, but we haven't really seen a lot of production. And so it's always kind of been more the myth of who Doug Kramer is than us seeing the reality of how he performs on the football field. So understand the pick here. Next up, he had Travis Homer. I think that's going to happen. Travis Homer is going to be off the Bears roster. I don't see him being on the final 53-man roster by the end of the season. I just don't see it personally. And when you have kind of Velus Jones, especially being in that hybrid wide receiver running back role, Travis Homer, I think Kahari Blasingame can do everything Travis Homer can. If Roschon Johnson's fully healthy, would not be surprised once people start getting off the IR if Travis Homer's is one of the first cuts there. And then lastly on this list of 3 players that they have that will not be on the Chicago Bears roster by week 5 as far as the 53-man roster is Daniel Hardy. Now, I would replace this with Dominique Robinson, but I will say this to Robert Schwartz's point is that Dominique Robinson is ahead of the depth chart right now, the unofficial depth chart that the Chicago Bears released. And because of that, maybe that starts pushing the Bears to maybe Daniel Hardy is the guy if they need to start making a roster spot. He was a 7th-round pick by the Rams in 2022. He hasn't seen a lot of in-season action yet, but he's a guy that was very productive in preseason. Now, you take preseason with a grain of salt. And I think overall that they compared to seeing Terrell Lewis and Travis Gibson last year, 2 guys who were well in preseason who ended up not making the final 53-man roster. So Daniel Hardy is one that I know people are going to not necessarily agree with. I think Dominique Robinson would be the better one there. But Dominique Robinson, who's been here longer, hasn't really progressed much. We'll see there. We'll see, man. I do think one of those guys could end up getting cut by before week 5, especially as guys come back from IR. But we'll see what happens there and if they end up on that 53-man roster. The last thing to talk about before we go today is one of the things that I think we were all kind of shocked about with Hard Knocks last night, and that is the Bears actually got a trade call on Velus Jones. Now, Ryan Poles had the value, which we know that Ryan Poles is all about value that he would like to see. It wasn't the 4th-round pick. And, and so at that point, he moved on. And this Bears team seems, between Chad Morton, the running backs coach, between how even Shane Waldron has talked about Velus Jones, it seems like a lot of people really do think that Velus Jones could end up making an impact on the team as far as the coaching staff. I have my own personal doubts with Velus Jones. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. I don't see it for Velus Jones right now. I haven't seen it for Velus Jones for a while. I think the prospect and the potential of Velus Jones has always been higher than the reality that we've gotten so far from Velus Jones. But he's a Bear. And much like I do with all Bears, I'm going to root that they prove me wrong if I have some doubt. One thing that I always think is weird. I think it's weird when fans of any sports team wish against somebody that's on your team just so they can be right about a point that they had. So I'm not going to do that here. While I don't believe in Velus Jones, I actually hope that I'm wrong. I hope that Velus Jones does show his worth in being a positionless player, that he makes some big plays for the Chicago Bears next year, and then we're not talking about it and we're looking at, okay, how can Velus build off of that? And so I'm not going to wish bad upon, I'm not going to wish negatively upon Velus Jones. I hope he proves me wrong. I did the same thing with Kendall Vidor. I hated Kendall Vidor, but I hope that Kendall Vidor proved me wrong. I even had the prove me wrong challenge, which he did not live up to, and then he shortly thereafter was off this roster, and you see how better this cornerback crew is now? But I think that Velus, he has speed. We know he has undeniable speed. It's how he uses that speed, and can he turn that into a realized weapon for himself? And let's hope that he can, man. Yeah, let's hope that he can. Let's hope that he can. I'm gonna watch out for Velus Jones. I hope he makes some big plays for the Bears next season. He also was listed as kick returner, so special teams and this positionless player that the Bears are going to try to use him for. Like I said, once I heard Shane Waldron being excited about Velus Jones, like I said, I'm gonna give credit. I hope that he proves me wrong, and we'll see what happens there. But that's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following the show at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.